I am so sick. Oh hey, hi, it's me, Wilma Fingerdoo, feeling my pink fantasy, which sounds way dirtier than I meant it to, with my review of Drag Race Holland Season 1, Episode 7. And before I get started, I just want to send a shout out to my Tipperdoo this week, Susan Nikolai. Thank you so much for popping by. You're a doll. If any of you watching would like to support this channel or me, there are links down below to do just that. While you're looking down, make sure you hit that subscribe button and make sure you like this video, but only if you did. Don't lie. Not now. Also, if you'd like to support the Rainbow Railroad, I have 4 fabulous prints by the incredibly talented Denise Journeau, and all the proceeds from those sales will go directly to Rainbow Railroad. Also, while you're thinking of it, why don't you pick yourself up a Denise Journeau designed Wilma Lips mask? There's 4 to choose from, and they're a great way to show the world that you're smiling, even when they can't see that you are. Okay, so let's get to it. Jorge, drink me! Oh, so we're still on a black vodka kick, is that right? All right. How much of it did you buy? I love mixing it though. We should give this, what should we call this? I think we should call this, ooh, look at that, Midnight at the Oasis. It even tastes more delicious than it already is. I'm so serious. Okay, so we started this episode off by listening to JJ go on about how intense it was to lip sync for her life. Like anyone else in the room doesn't already know it. Well, everyone but Envy Peru. Then, when JJ's whining stopped, the queens were able to bid adieu to Chelsea Boy. I love you, Chelsea! The next day in the workroom, the top 4 queens were feeling their semi-final oats. That is until Abby ruined the mood by pointing out that one of them would be going home before this episode was over, which seemed fine with JJ as long as that queen going home was Abby. But how do you really feel, JJ? As far as Abby was concerned, she just wanted to beat JJ in the finale. Well, it's good to have dreams. But before any of the queens could elaborate, Rue's video message interrupted them. This week's message seemed to hint at another acting challenge, much to everyone's chagrin. But before any of the queens could overthink anything, there was Fred parading that prize dress around once again before announcing this week's mini challenge, a bitch fest with puppets, because everyone loves puppets. And blindfolds, apparently. This is what happens when they can't afford to have the pit crew drop in, I'm just saying. Envy picked Mama Queen. JJ picked Envy Peru. Mama picked Abby, which left JJ getting picked by Abby. And you know she loved that. Once that was all sorted, the queens had to drag up their puppets, and it wasn't pretty. Up first was JJ with her Envy Peru puppet, roots and all, and from the reaction of Fred and the other queens, she didn't do too badly. Mama Queen bitched out her Abby puppet next. But I have to say that even with that sloppy tuck, Mama's Abby wasn't that funny, I'm so serious. And yes, Sloppy Tuck was my drag queen name in high school. Abby and her JJ puppet were next, and if there hadn't been a name tag on that puppet, I don't know that I would have recognized that puppet as JJ. She looked more like Chelsea Boy if you asked me. And that was still the most interesting thing about Abby's Bitch Fest, seriously. Last on the puppet parade was Envy and her Mama Queen puppet. Clearly, this was the most successful Bitch Fest of the lot. Everyone, including Mama, had a good old chuckle. Except, well, anyone reading the subtitles, I assume, because I, for one, didn't get any of it, just saying. And then, when the puppet show was done, Fred surprised everyone by asking the queens who they thought the winner was. Lazy. Well, the queens gagged, but one by one they announced who they thought did the best. Personally, I thought that all the queens were going to vote for themselves, but Envy was the only one smart enough to do that because both JJ and Mama picked Envy, and Abby was the only one who picked Mama Queen. So if Envy had done the humble thing and picked Mama, it would have been a tie. Good thing Envy didn't pick Mama Queen. Well, good for Envy. Can we just take a minute to appreciate this look on Mama Queen's face? This is right after Envy picked herself. I'd watch out if I were Envy. That Mama Queen looks like she could slap a face from across the room. I'm just saying. But before anyone could give Envy the hairy side-eye, Fred announced this week's Maxi challenge, Maxima, the musical. The queens would have to perform in a musical about the Netherlands' own Queen Maxima, and because Envy had made herself the mini challenge winner, she got to assign the roles. Okay, so right away I know nothing about the Netherlands royal family, and even less of its history. So this challenge was going to be watched at face value, for me anyway. All any of us non-history buffs could do would be to watch the musical unfold. Right away, Envy got down to casting. There were 4 roles to cast, but all of them were Maxima at different stages of her life. The first Maxima, the college girl, or as the musical implied, Maxima Gone Wild, went to Abby, much to Mama Queen's delight because she'd had her fill of playing party girls on Drag Race already. Just saying. Maxima 2, the temptress, went to JJ, who didn't seem to have a problem with that. Envy took Maxima 3, the fiancé, which left Maxima 4, the queen, to Mama Queen. Then the queens got down to work, which meant choreography with Gerald and Frank, which was a lot harder than it looked, mostly because all the queens seemed to fall in love with Frank. I don't blame them. Abby especially seemed to get up close and personal with Frank. There was bum slapping and face licking. Clearly, this was a very posh production. It also seemed to be a very involved production because none of the queens were perving over Frank for long once they started to focus on their footwork. JJ had the most complicated part to learn, a tango. And for someone who'd never had a dance lesson in her life, she was feeling the pressure. Yeah, in her pants from dancing with Frank. Envy's choreo seemed to go smoother, but then the steps weren't as involved as the others, as JJ was very quick to point out. But JJ wasn't mad at it. She and Mama Queen wanted Envy to keep it simple so they could outshine her and send her home. And then Mama Queen was up next, and her choreography seemed to be the easiest of the bunch. All she did was give us the full Evita. Who's being simple now? Abby certainly was ready to help Mama pack. Seriously. And then, did I hear them right? Mama's version of Queen Maxima turns into a greedy, power-hungry bitch? This is a musical about the current Queen of the Netherlands? What is she, Trump's cousin? And then it was Elimination Day. Let's hope the queens put as much energy in their performances as they did in that entrance, I'm just saying. You know, I have to say, it was good to hear the queens worry about the work ahead. Not only did they have the musical to look forward to, but they also had to bring 3 looks to the runway. And at the end of that marathon, someone was going to go home. Mama asked the queens if anyone was unsure if they'd make it to the finale. Envy was super confident because of her previous wins, which seemed to set JJ off on a "it doesn't matter" rantlet. But you could see the other queens doing the math. If Envy was a sure thing, it was going to be down to JJ, Abby, and Mama Queen. Okay, just Abby and Mama Queen, because by the look on JJ's face, she's ready to stab any of the queens that get in her way. What? She scares me. And then it was time for the runway, and I thought Fred looked particularly lovely this week. That lavender purple floral fantasy with the pops of yellow were great. From the waist up. Why the ties in the front? Completely unnecessary. Did class make that too? Joining Fred on the judges panel, because it's in her contract, was Nikki Plesson, singer Roxanne Hayes, and Eurovision legend Celia Rombley. First up, Maxima, the musical. I didn't get this. Either Maxima is none of these things and they're poking fun at what a good person she is, or that country hates its monarch's choice of a wife. But I didn't care enough to look it up. As far as performances went, I thought Abby did okay. She seemed a little nervous at times, but not enough to stick out. JJ's tango seemed less impressive than it had in rehearsal. Envy did well, but her part seemed to go on forever, and Mama's power-hungry Maxima was fine. I'm glad when it was all said and done that Fred hoped that the royal family could take a joke. Personally, I think they should be able to take a punch. Seriously. Then it was time for the runway. Category is red, white, and blue, bitch. First look, beachwear, and Envy kicked it off in a splashy little white onesie with red trim and blue hair, festooned with what I'm assuming was plastic or acrylic accents. This was a very simple look, but Envy looked spectacular. The only thing is, I feel like this acrylic water effect has been done too much now. It's too much, we've seen it. Mama Queen's big blue boa revealed a retro-influenced red, white, and blue peekaboo swimsuit with red shoes to match. But the star of the show for me was Mama's red marcelled wig. I love that look. No offense, but I hated Abby's beachwear look. I blame the mohawk. There was no reason for it. Even she must have thought so because she ditched it for whatever little mermaid job she had on underneath it. The construction lines on this swimsuit were distracting, and I hated the white gloves. But other than that, I wish JJ had kept that towel on her head for her runway. I liked the look better with it. Not that I hated this look without it, but it looked good. Envy kicked off the cocktail dress category by setting that bar high. This look was exquisite. The silver onesie, the blue jacket, the red gloves and shoes, but the star of this show was Envy's Shiver Chapeau. I want to know who did that and how. Seriously. Did you gag? I gagged. Mama Queen looked fabulous, but there wasn't a lot of blue in her outfit, and her jewelry was pink. Sure, there were blue stones on it, but they weren't that noticeable, I'm just saying. Oh my god, I hated this look on Abby, OMG too. Stewardess chic has never taken off outside of an actual airplane, so don't try and force it on us now, I'm so serious. I love the idea of JJ's dress. It was stunning, but I felt the nude illusion was ruined by the placement of the red, white, and blue ribbons. The ones crossing her bust weren't crossing her in the right place, and the way the side seams chevroned, well, it ruined the whole wrapped up in ribbons illusion for me. But I'm being nitpicky at this point. JJ looked good. For the evening gown portion of the runway, I hated Envy's look. This was too much going on. The tulle glasses were her attempt to have blue in the look, and that high shoulder crossover front with the silver obi belt. Did anyone else expect that to be a reveal? Just me? The red boots into leggings were a nice touch though. Mama Queen's gown was okay. I mean, it was mostly a red corset with white puff sleeves and a full white skirt, but why the blue pants underneath? And what was with that horrid wig up on her head? I know she was trying to evoke a Marie Antoinette feel, but she needed to secure its height more because the way it was bouncing off the back of her head, it looked more like a tumor than a wig, I'm just saying. I didn't like Abby's evening gown either, but of all her looks, this was my favorite. There was way too much tulle on this dress, but at least she was covered for a change. I like JJ's gown way better than her cocktail dress. This seemed way more organic to her figure. I love the one white glove. Her wig was exquisite. If I had to complain about anything, it would be the color of her tights. They seemed darker than her skin tone, and you could just see the difference in the nude fabric of the corset under her ribbons right there at the hip. But other than that, it was one of my faves of the night, I'm just saying. And then it was time for the judges' critiques. But instead of telling the queens what they thought, Fred and the judges wanted to hear who the queens thought should go home. Awkward! Envy was definitely caught off guard, but didn't let that stop her from naming Abby because, well, she was the only one there without a win. Abby loved that. Mama surprised everyone by saying that she'd rather go to the finale with Abby and JJ, so she picked Envy to go home. Look at Mama making a power move. Of course, Envy loved that. So did Abby. Fred was shocked. Abby totally went out by saying that she wished they could all go to the finale. Liar! JJ, on the other hand, had no problem naming Abby as the queen to go because, again, she hadn't won anything yet. As for what the judges thought, Celia thought Envy owned the runway in her looks, but Nikki thought she was slightly outshone in the rusical by the other girls. Fred thought Mama Queen's lip sync for the rusical was on point, but everyone seemed to have a problem with the color of Mama Queen's tights for her beachwear look. Fred likened them to Pinocchio's wooden legs, which is never a good leg reference. Everyone thought Abby looked regal on the runway, but Nikki Plesson hated that ribbon at her waist. Well, it's good to have a hobby. But Celia was impressed by Abby's dancing in those high heels. JJ had Roxanne's favorite look of the night, while Celia wished JJ smiled more, and Nikki was really impressed by JJ's tango. And then it was time for the judges to gossip. So the queens all freaked off to the workroom for a much-needed cocktail to go with that side of awkward. Right away, Mama Queen defended her choice to pick Envy to go home by saying it was how she was feeling, and she still respects Envy and her drag. I love that Envy called Mama out by saying that that was the sorriest excuse ever. Envy told Mama she should want to be the best, not have a friendly get-together. If I could, I would have crowned Envy right there, seriously. Envy also called Abby out for being the only one not to name the queen she thought should go home. And when Abby said she didn't think it was necessary to say a name, JJ said it was a cop-out. But we all know that in her heart of hearts, Abby would have to agree that being in the bottom 2 3 times doesn't put you in the top. This is the 7th episode. She's been in the bottom for half the season so far, I'm just saying. This seemed to be the issue the judges were having. Abby had been in the bottom, but Fred felt she'd showed the most improvement over the last few weeks. But was it too little, too late? And was Mama Queen's runway weak enough to put her in the bottom? But then, no one seemed to like Envy's performance in the musical, while Fred said JJ was just too damn beautiful. So, with that said, it was no surprise to me that when the queens returned to the runway, it was JJ who was this week's winner, and finally, that Ice Queen broke down and showed some emotion. She's never looked more beautiful. Or maybe she's right and it's just her injectables that are starting to wear off. And then the 3 remaining queens held their breath and pled allegiances to whatever powers that be, as Fred announced that the next queen through to the finale was Envy Peru. Was there ever any doubt? Even if she did go to the bottom, she was coming back, I'm so serious. So, it was down to Abby and Mama lip-syncing it out to Kelly Clarkson's Stronger. This is a great song to lip-sync to. I'm just sorry that Abby and Mama spent so much of the song trying to get undressed. I'm not sure it was Abby's intention, but whatever the hell she was wearing underneath that gown with that red wig, she was giving me Fifth Element realness, I'm just saying. I just wish she hadn't spent the whole night tugging at it like a teenager in her first strapless prom dress. I have to say, I liked Mama Queen's outfit way more without the skirt, but as far as her lip sync was concerned, she kept getting upstaged by Abby. Especially when Abby did the splits, right there in front of her, and whatever you call that. Mama kept looking like she was trying not to step on her or something. And then she did those sad splits at the end where she, I don't know, her heel got caught in the stage, she kind of almost stopped, and then it looked like she fell over. So did her wig. I have to admit, I agreed with Abby. I thought she just lip-synced Mama out of the competition. But no, Fred said they were both safe. Boo. I had the same expression on my face as Envy and JJ. Well, more like JJ because my face moves too. But seriously, I was like, are you kidding me? No offense to Mama Queen, but she sleepwalked through that entire lip sync. Based on that alone, I'd have sent Mama home. And yes, I know Abby's been in the bottom 3 times already, but since when was winning the lip sync a bad thing? Season 2, Raven was in the bottom twice, but she still made runner-up. What about season 3? Alexis Mateo lip synced 3 times and still made it to top 3, as did Cameron Michaels in season 10. And short of Abby fighting with her undergarments, I thought she did a great lip sync. I mean, you know, once she took off that dress. And no offense to Mama Queen, but being safe for most of the competition isn't always a good thing either. She was definitely eclipsed by every queen at least once this season. I'm just saying. But Fred didn't ask me. It was his call to make, and there was nothing anyone could do about it. Those queens worked their padded butts off only to have it all be for nothing. There's no elimination. All 4 queens are going to the final. Neither JJ nor Envy seemed as pleased as Abby and Mama did, which means that next week's episode 8, the finale, is gonna start off with a bang, I'm just saying. Well, what did you think? Was it a fair call to have no elimination this week? Personally, I thought Mama was going to sashay. Anyone else? Just me? Well, whatever we think, it's top 4 going to the finale. Who's your pick to win? Envy Peru is my only remaining pick for top 3 since Chelsea and Cederjean sashayed. So my money's on her, but what about JJ? I wouldn't want to be the one who got in between her and a crown, I'm just saying. What about Abby? She's been on the upward trajectory whether you're a fan of hers or not, which leaves the sleeping giant, Mama Queen. Do you think she'll wake up in time to snatch the crown away from anyone? All we can do is tune in to Drag Race Holland for the finale, and when you're done, you come on back and you see me so you and I can compare notes. Now, don't forget to like this video if you did, and please take a second to subscribe to my channel if you haven't. And if you'd like to support me or this channel, there are links down below in the description box. Until next week, miss me! Wow, seriously, Martin. This midnight at the Oasis cocktail's not too terrible.